What if your Obsidian Vault could talk? Not just keyword searches, but real conversations. Without the internet, without sending data to big companies. In this video, I will show you how to turn your notes into a private AI assistant using Msty. And the best part of it, there are no technical skills needed and it's free. Technically, we will not be talking to our files, but about them, via a tool called Msty. By the end of this video, you will be able to set it up and use it. Think of Msty as ChatGPT, but powered by your own files and running privately on your machine. It's your personal AI assistant trained on your knowledge. The best part? Msty is free and easy to set up. If we can read, install software, and are willing to experiment a bit, we will be totally fine. By the way, if things like LLM or RAG don't mean much to you, or you just generally want to understand all this AI fuzz better, take a look at the learning app Brilliant, the sponsor of today's video. Brilliant makes it easy to learn anywhere right on your phone, with fun lessons you can do whenever you have time. Learning a little every day is one of the most important things you can do, both for personal and professional growth. Brilliant is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in math, data analysis, programming, and yes, AI. Brilliant helps you build real knowledge in minutes a day, whether you want to brush up on fundamentals or challenge yourself with advanced concepts in, for example, computer science. Turn your curiosity into comprehension and peek under the hood of large language models like ChatGPT to understand the concepts powering today's technology and getting your mind ready for future challenges. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/leanproductivity or scan the QR code on screen. Or you can also click on the link in the description. Doing that, you will also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Happy learning! We all take notes, but finding the right information when we need it, that's another story altogether. Tags, links, and folders help, of course, but what if we could just ask? Instead of scrolling through search results, imagine having an AI that not only finds the right note, but also puts it into context. All of this is possible with a local RAG. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. Think of it like having an AI-powered librarian. Instead of just pointing to books, it reads them and gives you a summary based on what you need. In our case, books can be local files or notes in our Obsidian Vault, and Msty makes that very easy. Let me show you how it looks like, just to give you a quick impression of what is possible before setting it up together. This is what Msty looks like. Don't worry about the details, we will get to those in a bit. For now, you will notice that it looks fairly similar to ChatGPT or other large language model interfaces. It also works in pretty much the same way. I will ask, what were my thoughts on productivity? And after some thinking, I get this response. At the end, we can open the citations. If we do that, we can see that the response is indeed based on my Obsidian Vault, which is in the directory d/lean notes. However, I feel like I had more than just these few thoughts. Perhaps my current model is not the best for this kind of conversation. I am currently using the EXA-1 LLM. With Msty, it is very simple to try others. At the end of the response, we find several icons. For now, we are only interested in this one. Hovering over it gives us a tooltip saying that we can regenerate the response with a different model if we hold the Control key while clicking on it. Let's do that and select 5-4 as our model of choice. Msty branches the answer off, and we can then click on this icon to open a split chat window to compare the two different answers. Now, the 5-4 answer actually looks better already. All this is based on my Obsidian Vault. Obviously, we can do much more than this. So let's see what we need and how to make the magic happen. And again, you do not need any technical expertise. Just follow this tutorial. Let's start with the building blocks. Basically, we need two things. a platform on our machine that can host large language models, and a user interface to interact with these models. We start with the platform to run our local LLM on. The most common and, for me, the easiest option is to use Ollama. We can download Ollama for free from their website. I left the link in the description. We pick the right version for our operating system, download and install it. Now we could download LLMs directly from here too, but it's better to do that later from within Msty, because then we see how compatible each model is with our setup and our hardware. Next, we need a way to interact with our local LLM. This is where Msty shines. Msty is a lightweight tool that lets us interact with our files and nodes as if they were a chatbot. It connects to local AI models, so our data never leaves our computer, and it works directly with Obsidian, making it the perfect solution for note takers who want more than just a text search. We can download Msty from their website. Again, the link is in the description. Make sure you pick the right version for your operating system and processing unit. Msty can run on a CPU, but as always with these things, a GPU is recommended. If you have a GPU, you can check Msty's list of compatible ones to see if yours is included. I want to highlight a few more things here. First, Msty follows an offline-first approach, just like Obsidian. It also leaves all our personal information and data on our machine and does not share it with any online models. And third, Msty is free forever for private use without any serious feature limitations. As with Obsidian, you can still buy a license to support the developers. And if you don't like to pay the $89 per year end user, they also offer a lifetime license for $179 at the moment. And these are our building blocks. Next, we are going to pick one or more large language models to use for chatting with our files and nodes. Okay, we downloaded and installed Ollama and Msty. We make sure that Ollama is running and start Msty for the first time. When starting Msty for the first time, we can choose to set up a local AI or work with remote providers. We choose the local AI option. But don't worry, you can always connect to online services later. Msty recognizes that Ollama is already installed and where our local large language models are stored. Since we did not download any LLMs manually before, we first go to the left-hand toolbar and click on Local AI Models. This will give us a list of LLMs that work with Msty. It suggests featured models, which are most commonly used, but we always have the option to click on Browse and download models online. Here we can pick our preferred model provider. This can be Ollama or Hugging Face. Again, I will go with Ollama. The models we see here are the same ones we could have downloaded manually, but with the additional information about each model's compatibility based on our machine. While we can install any model, I recommend using the ones that are 100% compatible. As downloading the models takes a bit of time, I did this already. And as you can see, I have multiple models installed. As there is no such thing as the ultimate best model for everyone and everything, I pick and choose the one that works best for me depending on what I need to do. Technically, this is all we need for using a local LLM. But until now, our local models know nothing about our files and nodes. Before we teach them, let me take you through Msty's user interface. Not because it is overly complicated, but because it has some nifty features that you don't usually find in other chat interfaces. Don't worry, we are not going to look at each and every button in detail, but we will focus on the most important elements. We start with the left-hand toolbar. There's a button for Remote Model Providers, which lets us control which ones we want to use. We can select one from the rather long list and we'll see the models offered by the respective provider. Of course, we will need an API key for interacting with those. Next, we have local AI models. And this we saw already during the setup. This is what we need to search and install local large language models. The next one is interesting. It lets us define so-called knowledge stacks. Knowledge stacks can be based on various sources. We will see how to set those up for our files and nodes in the next chapter. The next item here is really convenient. It is a prompt library that comes with a lot of predefined prompts for various use cases and also lets us save our own ones. We can then use those in our chats to easily and quickly set the context for our conversations. If we click on a specific one, we will not just see the full prompt, but also an example input and an example output for it. In the user interface's main area, we can select the model we want to use for our conversation. The options in the list depend on which local models we installed or online models we integrated with. Once we have chosen model, we can refine the model options with this button. For a better understanding of the various parameters, kindly look at the detailed documentation on Msty's website. They explain them much better than I ever could, and of course, the link is in the description for you as well. The next icon indicates that real-time data is off by default. This means that any answers we get are based on whatever our chosen model already knows. Msty will not go online to search for the most current information. Of course, we can toggle this on if we want. Next, we have the Quick Prompt button, which lets us choose one of the prompts from the previously shown prompt library and insert it quickly into our chat. Finally, we arrived at the Knowledge Stacks button. Clicking on this lets us choose one or more of our previously created knowledge stacks. If we do that, Msty will use the information inside the chosen stack or stacks to answer our questions. I will show some use case of this in a later chapter. And the last button lets us add individual files, nodes, or YouTube links to a chat, so the model can use those too. Combining our personal knowledge stacks with the model's inherent knowledge and having the option to easily get online information too makes Msty very flexible. Now, let's create some knowledge stacks with our local files and our Obsidian vault. Now that we have Msty and at least one large language model installed, let's teach the model how to work with our local files and Obsidian nodes. Msty does this with so-called knowledge stacks. We can think of those like AI-friendly folders. We are telling Msty which information it should learn from before answering our questions. For this, we go back to our Knowledge Stacks button. After clicking on it, in the left-hand toolbar, we can define knowledge stacks based on various sources. We can drag individual files into Msty. We can also define our Obsidian vault as a knowledge stack, which automatically adds all our nodes to it. Again, this information remains on our machine and is not shared with any online service. We can also define a folder and its subfolders as a source. This could be a folder with documentation or manuals, for example. We also have the option to add custom nodes manually, and the last possible source for building a knowledge stack is to provide one or multiple links to YouTube videos. We should take note of the supported file types here. As you can see, they do not yet include zip archives or common Office formats such as PowerPoint or Excel. This is not necessarily a problem, but we should make sure to have the right expectations. The other comment here is that adding large folder structures takes very long. I recommend creating multiple smaller knowledge stacks instead of a single huge one. We can also accelerate the process of creating the knowledge stack by telling Msty to ignore certain folders or file types. To do so, we need to create a .mstyignore file in the root directory of our knowledge stack. For example, I want to create a knowledge stack based on the folder Lean Productivity, but I know that there are many images, archives, and other not yet supported file types in there. So I create a new file called .mstyignore, open it in a text editor, and add these rules. Note that this file must be in the root directory of the knowledge stack. In my case, that's in my OneDrive folder under Documents, Resources, Lean Productivity. As you can see, I first exclude whole folders from indexing and then add the rules for various image formats, Office documents, and zip archives. This brings the number of files that Msty needs to check when composing the knowledge stack from over 2000 to approximately 200, which is of course much faster. As you can see, I created a few knowledge stacks already. They are all based on specific folders except for this one. This one is based on my Obsidian vault. The process is the same. We browse for our vault directory and click on Compose. Depending on the number of nodes in our vault, this can take a bit. Now comes the fun part, actually using Msty to chat with our files and nodes. Let's walk through a use case based on my knowledge stacks together. Okay, we are in Msty. I have chosen Llama 3.2 as my model. First, I tell Msty to use 2 of my knowledge stacks for our conversation. Cheat Sheets is a collection of PDF files on various topics including productivity, leadership, decision-making, etc. Lean Nodes is my production Obsidian vault, where I have many nodes related to these topics. We start by asking, what are the best practices for decision-making? As you can see, we get an answer fairly quickly. The response itself looks reasonable. Let's take a look at the citations to see where this information is coming from. Here we can confirm that Msty did indeed combine data from various PDF files and some of my notes. Very nice. Let's continue by asking, which of those are the 3 most easily implemented? This gives us 3 solid options, but they seem to be focused on teams or organizations. That's not what I wanted in this case, so let's clarify that by saying, okay, but what are the 3 easiest for an individual rather than an organization? Now this is better, and we could leave it right there. Or we benefit from some of Msty's advanced features. For example, I am quite familiar with most of these items here, but what exactly is cognitive load management? Msty can help with that too. We just highlight the term, right-click on it, and tell it to delve into the topic. This opens a split chat window with a separate discussion about cognitive load management. In its response, Msty also highlights some terms that it deems relevant. We can click on those to learn more about them. For example, about chunking. And if we find the explanation too long, we can ask it to summarize this in 1 paragraph. While we're doing all this, our original conversation remains intact and we can easily switch back to it. This feature alone makes Msty super powerful. Instead of stopping at one answer, you can explore topics in depth, just like peeling back layers of an idea. Clearly, it is very easy to jump from one topic to the next with Msty, but this can also get confusing. If we do get lost in the various split chats, then we can click on this little icon up here and open a visual map of our conversations. Here's an example where I took our initial discussion and then branched off in various directions. Here we find our initial discussion, the connection or connections to the next split chats. Clicking on an item lets us view the response. This allows us not just to have long and complex discussions, but also to navigate them very easily. I mentioned earlier that we can install multiple LLMs and pick the one that's best for a specific purpose. But how do we know which one is best for what? Well, frankly, I don't have a clear answer for that. It's a bit of trial and error. Fortunately, Msty makes testing and comparing large language models super easy. Check it out. We are back in Msty. We have 2 chat windows open. Our conversation will be based on the knowledge stack of my Obsidian vault. One chat is based on 5.4 and the other one on Llama 3.2. As you can see, the windows are synchronized. Whatever prompt we enter in one chat will also be used in the other one. Let's start by asking, which CSR policies are relevant for TISAX? That's a topic I have been working on recently. Not for fun, but it will work as an example. Llama might be a bit faster, but the answer seems very generic. While 5.4 gives me a list of specific policies, let's see if we can fix Llama's response. At the bottom of each response, we can find several icons. One is called Context Shield. If we click on it, then Msty will ignore any previous context in that specific conversation for future responses. We will also disable the synchronize for a moment and focus on Llama to ask which CSR policies are relevant for TISAX based on my notes. Looks like this made it even worse. Perhaps Llama is not a great model for these kind of questions. Let's click on Context Shield again and change the model to DeepSeek. We start again with which CSR policies are relevant for TISAX. Okay, that's better. This response is similar to what 5.4 gave us in the first place. And this is how we can compare different models. Of course, we are not limited to only 2. We can easily open 3 or 4 split chats with different models and talk to all of them at the same time. As I said in the beginning, we don't need deep technical knowledge to make this work for us, just a bit of patience to experiment. So, what do you think about local AI models? Would you use this setup? Let me know in the comments again. I read all of them. Oh, speaking of comments, if you're interested in a detailed Msty tutorial, let me know there as well. Until then, try experimenting with different prompts and AI models to see what works best for you. And if you run into any issues, there's a great community to help on Msty's Discord server. I also put that link into the description. I really hope this helped you understand Msty and local large language models and retrieval augmented generation better. If you need help or have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And since you're still here, you may want to take a look at this video next. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.